Hello.
Hey, Jason. Good morning. Can you hear me?
Mean to you, isn't it?
Can you repeat that? Sorry.
As it's the evening for you, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even yes, it's night. Actually, it's 11 p.m. for me. So
Oh, that's even later than I was thinking.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
yes, that is very late.
yeah. But I made my mind for this Monday meeting. So yeah,
Yeah.
on Tuesdays, I used to start a little bit later instead of like early in the morning. I take some time for me. So yeah.
Yeah.
How was your weekend?
It wasn't great actually. I was sick. I was um I was gonna go camping and kayaking out by a lake near here. And I just like I drove out there and just decided I wasn't feeling well and turned back.
And how do
So
you feel? How do you feel today? Sorry for. I mean, the adventure sounds great. Like the
yeah.
kayaking and all these things in a lake. I mean, hopefully you are feeling better today.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, not 100%, but definitely better than I was this weekend. Yeah. How about
Uh,
you? You do anything?
for me, it was great. So I visit my parents with my kids, and in my neighborhood here. So it has started the swimming pool season. So
Yeah.
in the evenings we are having some great time in the swimming pool. So yeah, can't complain. And the weather is comfortable. It's not like super hot. It's like
Yeah.
25 degrees, 20, 25. So it's great. But I'm sure that in July, in August, we'll get. I mean, it will not as comfortable for sure. Hey
Yeah.
Ben, Greg, hello.
Hello.
I love your t-shirt, Greg, or jacket. I like it.
Oh, yeah. Got this for my birthday a year ago, I think. Yeah.
It's
Legend of Zelda. It's also very nice in that it's the old Dallas Stars colors as well, before they changed their logo. So we call
so
this the Hyrule Stars sweater.
So if they change the logo, so the sweater is even more valuable than before you bought it. So no, it's getting value every year. So please keep it. Shall we start? Because it's like 4 minutes past 11. 4 minutes past the time to start. Okay, so I'm going to start share my screen. Just give me 1 second. As always, let's start with the meeting etiquette. We are going to record this session to share it with the community and also in YouTube. If someone in the meeting is against sharing this in YouTube, please reach out to me privately and I will take care of not uploading this one. If not, I hope to upload this tomorrow to YouTube. We encourage everyone to challenge any language or behavior that is harmful or against our code of conduct. We'll try to remain on mute when someone is speaking and use the Zoom reactions to ask for a turn to speak. And without any further ado, this is today's agenda. Review the action items from last call. The last call was canceled, so we don't have much to review. And we have 3 items. The first one is from my side, is use the meeting to see if we can have a discussion to see what what are the topics, issues, or what is the scope of the specification discussion? Because we agreed in me joining the specification effort to provide some kind of, I don't want to call it project management, but I'm going to say it. So project management, like to help to get the things closed or remove impediments or visualize the work. I mean, just to make my part to see if we can continue or accelerate the process. So as I said, the propose is I wasn't part of the discussion before. So I will need some context to create like the list of issues or the scope of the new release, we can call it. I don't know if we will have time in one single meeting, but at least we can start in some way. We can start with this issue, with this topic, or we can leave it for the line in the last position, and we can start with the other two. Up to us. I don't know if I explained myself properly with the purpose of this topic. Basically, is see what we have in the table to get the specification complete. If that is achievable, maybe it's not. It's just an ongoing discussion, and just help with that.
Yeah, I was thinking I wanted to gather some thoughts and notes and before we have that discussion, and I have not prepared for that. So so we could definitely do some off the top of my head, and everybody's head, but I think it would be useful to follow up at some point with another meeting after we've had some time to think about some of the things.
Of course, for me, that will help because it will give me some time to take my time to read everything and get a better context. I don't know what other things about it.
But yeah, as for whether we do it first or last, I think I'd suggest do it last, and we'll just use whatever remaining time we have for that.
Sounds great for me. Ben, if you don't mind, we can start with your point, the pull request 408. Identify a list of critical interfaces that implementation should have and empower implementers with better resources. I'm going to very quickly open it.
Yeah, that's an issue. I don't know why it's come up as a PR. I don't know if that was
No, I put it. It's not the GitHub Actions. I thought that was a PR, but this was me. It's an issue. No apologies.
No problem. Yeah, so this is just the first issue that I picked out from the list of our roadmap as a sort of trial run to see if this format was going to work. What I did is detail just a little bit of the story and why this problem needs solving, what the problem is and why it needs solving. And then I asked Julian if he could take ownership on this one and come up with a list of success criteria and deliverables, which he's done and edited to this list. And then I'll leave it to him to either do this work or delegate it to other people, or just leave it open for other people to commit to. So yeah, I just wondered if people had any thoughts if this sort of format works, or whether we're going to need deeper information on some of those topics from some of the items, from the roadmap. I think some of them could do a little bit more detail, maybe even a blog article, but for ones like this, there probably isn't a general public interest at this point in time. There might be once we sort of coming towards the end of that work, but at this moment, I don't think we would be for this one. Sorry, just to be clear, the question was, does this seem sufficient for a roadmap item, or is there something else additional we should be doing?
I think this is a good start. It's definitely something that we've discussed having. And as far as what that documentation looks like, then we need a place to discuss it. So an issue is a good place as any.
Yeah, I mean, I just put them all into a GitHub project. I've linked on the sides, there's a few different status, and I put the effort and impact on there, and the categories as well, and did some assignments on that. I do need to talk to each of you a little bit more about those assignments. They're speculative at the moment; they're not anything definitive. And it's just kind of casing them out to see where they would go. Yeah, if you go back to the issue, the products on the right hand side. So if you go back to the issue, then
I will.
On the right hand side, it's got projects, and the right sort of like sidebar, and you can just click on that. Yeah.
Maybe to make it like more clear what is the expected outcome of the issue, we can clarify that documentation itself is not like part of the deliverable. It's just create and have clarity about what are those requirements, and we can just take the requirements and create a different the documentation, whatever we call it. So because maybe I don't know how fast we were in the past with documentation, but right now we are not super fast with those changes. So maybe we can divide it, like first have clarity in the list of interfaces and what are the, like if we imagine that we have a technical writer in the team, so that person can take the output of this issue and just create beautiful documentation, right? So we can divide.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely imagining that most of these will be broken down further into smaller issues for easier tracking and easier delegation, or for other people in the community to pick up. So where those can be broken down further, which I imagine is all of them, then we should definitely be doing that. And making task lists makes that nice and easy, where appropriate, to turn those into issues.
Can I ask something, Ben?
Yeah.
Why you decided to start with this one? To see like the minimal effort, or is any criteria in your mind that we should be aware of?
Not really. I just went with the ones that were high impact and low effort, and that was the first one. There wasn't any other reason. It's just this the one that was at the top on my list. Yeah, so I'll be reaching out to everyone in the next week or so about the speculative assignments that I've put on these, and see if we can define those tasks and what the deliverables and goals, or sorry, I forgot the phrase I meant to use. What the completion looks like for these items. So that's I just wanted to put that out there to give people a chance to have a look at those and start thinking about the ones that I've done as speculative assigned, and we can discuss over the next couple of weeks if people feel like those assignments make sense or they want to change them or whatever. Again, this is still proposed. We haven't 100% agreed on this. We're still waiting for feedback, but I'm not sure we're going to get a lot more feedback at this point. So I'm kind of assuming that this will roughly be what we're doing, and it probably won't change an awful lot in the immediate future.
Any comment? So we jump to the next topic then? Okay, I'm going to share my screen again. Next topic before going to the large one regarding the scope of the spec is from my side. It's a very small pull request, but I just wanted to take advantage of the opportunity that we are on the same room discussing about the project, just to show very quickly one change that I'm expecting to include in the org readme. So if everyone remember, we created this new readme at org level to try to start reducing some friction of new joiners visiting our repo, trying to clarify much better pointers to the different areas of the community or ways to contribute, etc. So what I did is I'm going to include this banner in the top of the README. It's very similar to what Async API is doing. Check very quickly. And it's going to, this is what they have. And what we will have is something very similar. Let me show you how this looks like in my fork. Something like this. So basically, it's just starting to show how the new website will look like. And it's like a teaser of what we will be releasing. I don't know if what you think about this. I mean, is the sentence that Ben suggested weeks ago. Probably we didn't have like a, I don't know if it's implicit that is the one that we will take as a vision or inspiring message or something, but I like it. Is in a pull request, it's not approved, but please let me know what do you think about this. Not today. I mean, the PR is there, so just wanted to let you know more new changes that are coming. Tell me, shoot.
So this is kind of locking us into the proposed website design. Also, it's got that fade on there. It's just very, very subtle. Are we going to be, I guess we can update that according to however we do the website, when we do the website, something that we should keep in mind. The one little nitpick that I have is just maybe a little bit of OCD. It's not vertically centered. The text is not vertically centered inside the box.
Okay, I let Paul know about that. So I don't have that sensitivity with the pixels and stuff. So I didn't realize about it, but thank you for the feedback. I let him know.
Yeah.
And I'm sharing my screen. I'm going to share my screen again. One sec. And just for everyone's information, I can very quickly show in what point are we right now with the new website, because we saw this banner, so we can see what is the correlation with the new design. 1 second, I'm looking to the address. This, I mean,
We have actual text.
I mean, forget about the text, because those are just placeholders, but the web page is almost done. So there is an issue with a document when we can co-create all this messaging, but basically this is this is already built. This is live. We are still working in showing the upcoming, not the ones in this week. But this is feeding from the Google Calendar. This is showing the last article in this repo. I have to upload or merge to the repository the new case studies. And of course, we need to agree in what are the logos and stuff. But basically, everything, we are almost there.
Nice.
That's for your information. And we are working in the docs. So a lot. There are some changes that needs to be included here. Very quickly, 1 minute more, I can show you how the documentation view will be. Something like this. This kind of menu, and this behavior is expected with the documentation. And those are the designs for the mobile version.
Nice, looks good.
It does look good.
Yeah, thank you. I'll share your feedback with the people working on this. Basically, is the designer Paul Weller, Melinda Gutermuth has been helping with docs, and Ronnie Lockwood, both in Postman side. Ronnie helped with the front-end development. Great. Any other comment? By the way, I saw that Juan, welcome, and Agnives. I mean, Juan, you have been in the meeting for minutes, but I saw Nivex connected. So hello, Agnives. Any comment about the banner or the website or the layouts that we have for documentation?
I think the banner looks good. I mean, I think the only thing that I think was what Greg touched on is that it seems like the banner is more following the style of like the other website and not like the new design, you know, with like the blue shade or something like that. But I think if you create one that is like more in line with how this website looks like, the one that you just have shown, then it's gonna be more, it's gonna make more sense. But I like the eye candy, right? I think it's gonna make all of these things stand out a lot, and that's good.
Yep, thank you, everyone. Yep, we'll change it. So I'm going to change the status of the pull request as draft, and as soon as I have another banner, I just ask for feedback in a Slack. Thank you, everyone. And we don't have anything else in the agenda, just the spec discussion, and it's up to us if we feel ourselves with enough information to start the discussion, like putting together what things we think are part of the scope, or if not, maybe we can, as Jason suggested, we can have like a period of putting our thoughts together, maybe in everything in an issue or a community discussion, and start from there. I leave the option to all of you.
Yeah, I actually had something that I wanted to ask everybody with just to I just want to see like how close we are to on the same page with the recent discussions that have been happening with the uh, uh, dialect URIs and stuff like that. So I did just create a couple of spin-off issues, but then Greg asked a question that made me think maybe we're not quite as much on the same page as I thought. So I just wanted to see where we're at right now. So I guess to start with, do we all agree that that there should be a stable URI for the stable release, whether or not we use unique identifiers for each release? Should there also be a stable one?
I think it's a good idea to have a stable one
Yeah, I
that,
think my
that always points
sorry.
to latest. Yeah.
I think my only concern was if we were to have just a stable one and not one also for releases, then I would find that a concern. But I think having both is fine, and I think we should have both. I can definitely understand the utility in having both.
If we do release, if we do have release URIs, then I would suggest that we need to define some convention that they follow.
Sure. Yeah, so that was actually where I was going to go next. Is are we all agreed that there should be unique URIs, or do we still think that needs more discussion? Anybody opposed to having unique IDs? All right.
What does that mean? How's that different from having URIs for each release?
So that is what I mean by unique IDs. So there would be
Cool.
a unique one for each release, plus a stable one that points to the current latest.
Yeah, good. That sounds good to me. I don't know if you're going to continue listing things. The only thing I suspect I disagree with that you probably don't is changing the default for a dollar schema. Or sorry, the only thing I suspect I disagree with you on is changing the default for a dollar schema.
Yeah, or having one at all, because there isn't one right now. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm actually kind of up in the air on that one at this point. Because I think there is a possibility that in the future we want to release a whole new version. I don't think we necessarily I don't think it's inevitable, but I think it's a possibility. And if we choose if we set a default, we can only do it the once.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we all agree on even one case that we'll call, well, regardless of what word we use to describe it, if we imagine that we're removing some deprecated keyword, we actually couldn't make that change itself without a deprecation period if we added a default to dollar schema, or if we made the dollar schema default be latest. You would have to deprecate schemas without dollar schema while we make that change in order to make the change.
I didn't entirely follow that.
So imagine that today we make the default for dollar schema be the version that today we think will be the permanent version of JSON schema. And then in 2 years from now, we decide, could you still hear me, by the way? I know I'm standing on a street corner.
Yes, yeah, you're good.
Okay, cool. And then in a year from now, someone is like, oh, the contained keyword or the num keyword is really stupid. Why does it allow multiple values of the same type, we should deprecate that and add a enum2 keyword. We could deprecate it, but we could never remove it because the default value for schemas that have no $schema would be for the version of JSON schema dialect that contains the enum keyword. So you couldn't update the default value for $schema in a compatible way.
Right. I think that's Jason's point, is you can only set the default once.
Okay, cool. Then we all agree.
Yeah.
And the only thing, sorry, I'm gonna be brutally explicit. The only thing I thought I was adding just now is that whether or not you think this is gonna happen doesn't actually depend on whether you believe me. Let's say that I think there's some hidden larger change that we'll want to make in the future. You don't even have to believe me. You can go with the set of changes we already all agree with, which is in the future we may want to deprecate a keyword and remove it, not necessarily just we might want to change the behavior of a keyword.
Well, that's a good question. Is do we want to, in all cases, if we want to ever remove a keyword, do we want to say that is necessarily going to have to be a new version, or can we say, like, within this version we're going to allow it in extreme cases? And just deprecating shouldn't have to change anything, but removal would.
Sorry, let me repeat back what I understood the question to be, because I heard two different questions. You mean when we want to deprecate a keyword, should that be a release and have a URI? So tomorrow we decide we want to deprecate the enum keyword with no replacement immediately. Is the question you just asked whether that should be a release and get its own release URI?
It would definitely be its own release URI, but would it also update, or would we also need a new stable because it's an incompatible change?
To me, my opinion and understanding of what we agreed on just before this discussion was that if you're using the stable URI, that's basically following master. So once we make that change, you're immediately getting it. But if you use the current version, by basically sort of explicitly listing which version you're using, then when we deprecate enum, it gets a new URI for the dialect that has deprecated enum. And when you use that, you're going to change your schema to use the dialect with deprecated enum, unless I'm misunderstanding the point.
I think we're not using the same definition of deprecated, because deprecated should have no bearing on behavior or functionality at all. It's just an indicator.
Okay, then I definitely missed something, and I apologize. I possibly haven't been following along. I definitely think deprecated should affect behavior. So someone using deprecated behavior in my implementation, I would want to see a warning saying this is the last version where the behavior you're relying on works. And in order to do that, I need to be able to know which dialect that person's using.
Sure, a warning would make sense.
So that means basically using the $schema that they declare in their schema, I want to be able to say, oh yeah, in that version, this keyword's deprecated, you're going to see a warning. Whereas if you use a version where that keyword's not deprecated, then they shouldn't see a warning.
I'm not sure that I would agree that the version that you're using should matter. Like, once we deprecate a keyword, you should start getting that message, no matter what version you were using before.
Well, I would counter with two things. Sorry. I would counter with two things. One is, if I hypothetically agree with you, I don't think we should prohibit implementations from being able to do so. And changing $schema would, in the way you're suggesting, would prohibit. So in other words, you might in your implementation not want to raise warnings as soon as that keyword is disappearing in the future. But if we don't do this, then no implementation can raise a warning, or can not raise a warning if the person is on a stable version where the feature isn't deprecated. In other words, to me, you're saying something that's opinionated, and whether or not I agree or disagree with your opinion, I think we should leave it up to implementers to be able to do so. I would do so personally. I would want to raise a deprecation warning only if a person is using a keyword in the dialect where it's deprecated.
So I think you're assuming that that people would be explicitly declaring a release, in their dollar schema, which I don't think would be the norm, although technically allowed. I would imagine people would be using the stable URI in their dollar schema, which means that it doesn't, like there's no way for the implementation to know, or it really shouldn't care, what version
Right.
the user wrote the schema for. It either works or it doesn't. Either your implementation supports it or it doesn't. It's a better way to put it.
Yeah, that sort of thing worries me, again, because I don't think we'll have one stable version forever. In fact, I would like to go the other way in my implementation and actually start failing schemas that don't declare dollar schema, even if that permanently means people have this boilerplate dollar schema that's the same. To me, this is the same discussion as packaging, where, yeah, you might be using a package which promises backwards compatibility in 99% of cases, but you still pin the version. That there's no reason that you then stop pinning the version. You still write the version that you want to use. This way you notice when the version changes.
So I don't think we're quite saying the same thing. I think that the stable URI is like, I mean, let's say that's the dollar schema is required and people are using the stable URI. There may be in the future, if we decide we need a whole new version, a new stable URI. And so that would change, but that is a different thing than the release URI. Does that make sense?
Yes, but I missed the point, I think. In other words, you're saying, I missed the point, sorry.
Yeah. I think the point is that I don't think your argument that things might change in the future is blocked by using the stable URI, because the stable URI isn't the only the only one that may exist in the future. There may be others. We can have, like, Python's was on version 2 for a long time, and then eventually, at some point they decided they needed to do a big break and do Python 3. Like, we could, that's kind of what I expect might happen, is JSON schema is going to have those, 2.1, 2.3, 2.4, and and eventually maybe we might have to, do a 3.0. And then start doing 3.1s, 3.2, and the stable URI would be the 2 or 3, the version 2 or version 3, and then the .1, .2, whatever is the releases.
I forgot already the original question we were talking about, if I'm honest. Well, I forgot how we got here. But by the way, we shouldn't use Python as an example, because Python is not backwards compatible from one release to the next, even within 2.x or 3.x.
Oh, I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, Python follows the model that I've been pushing. So in Python, there's a deprecation policy, and you can't break that deprecation policy over some period of time. But the major versions are not bumped every single time a backwards incompatible change is made.
But they did decide at some point that they were making big enough changes that they needed to
exactly. So the change from 1 to 2 and 2 to 3 just means this is a giant change, and there's no deprecation policy that was followed. So the change from 2 to 3 was strictly because someone was like, we want to make big changes and we don't want to follow the deprecation policy, so we're bumping the version. So we'll have no way to do that, I don't think. I don't think anyone's proposed that we will do that as JSON schema.
Well, well, that's what I'm saying. Like we haven't talked about it much, but that's what I'm saying we could do with introducing a new stable URI. Like that would be our jumping from, you know, we're making a huge change and we don't want to follow the rules that we had before.
But there. Okay, sorry. I know it's me that I'm slow. I'm sure you thought about this more, and I'm just trying to work through which point I'm missing. Like there's multiple possibilities. Yeah, either the next release is fully backwards compatible and we expect no changes, or it's a small change that someone still may want to differentiate, or it's a big change and it doesn't follow the rules, right? Those are the three possibilities every time a release comes out. Fully backwards compatible, you don't need to worry about it, or small changes you still may want to differentiate, or big change and we didn't follow the deprecation policy.
Yep.
And now seriously, I forgot the question that led us to talking about this, that we were disagreeing on, where you said,
if I can jump in and summarize, I think this was around warning, or what effect does defining a schema with the dollar schema where it signifies a specific release, and whether you should be warning deprecated features. And Jason's point was he didn't expect many people to be using the release specific URIs in dollar schema anymore with the next version of JSON schema. However, your point was they still might want to, or Julian's point was they still might want to do that for differentiation purposes. I think you both agree, and maybe just didn't realize it, and there was a little bit of crosstalk. But I think that was the critical point of I think most of the time people will use, I'll rephrase, I think people that understand, if we communicate this well, people that understand what this new stable URI means will probably use that. And people that don't understand what it means will probably use the release-based mechanism or the release-based URIs because they think that's giving them some greater level of assurance, whereas in reality it doesn't. And that's something that I've had to work through as well in some of the discussions. And as I did a critical analysis of some of the discussions and tried to reply in going logically through the steps, I kind of had to revert some of my conclusions because they didn't make sense anymore. So I think it's a bit of a shift in thinking, but it does make sense. But yeah, in essence, I think you agree, but you were working from different default positions or different assumption positions, I think.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think that we're not really terribly off. And I think that the one detail I think that we're not entirely on the same page is not actually relevant to this particular discussion.
Okay, good. Okay, sorry, at the risk of torpedoing again, which hopefully not, I'm going to ask the original question I started with. Is someone proposing that we change the default for dollar schema?
Do we even have a default now? What's the default now?
Well,
Do we have a default?
There is no default at the moment, but I think the discussion that's on the table is should we decide to make the stable URI the default?
Yeah, and I countered with, should we decide the exact opposite and make dollar schema required? Yeah. So I do think we still disagree there, honestly. I think you're leaning towards making it not required, and tell me if I'm wrong, not required, and standardizing the spec that implementations should default to the latest stable URI. And I would prefer the exact opposite, make it required and everyone has to put the latest stable URI if that's what they mean.
I would definitely personally rather see it required. I think not only would it be useful for implementers and users, so they have a better idea of what they're doing and why they're doing it. But also, like, people will start to see a huge benefit in their IDEs that they're probably not aware of. Like, so many people, the first time I was showing, look, you put your dollar schema here and then the URI you want, and suddenly you get autocomplete and validation. Like, it's almost every week that someone's mind is blown by that capability. So from a whole developer experience, I think that will be a really big win.
I'm actually like I'm leaning towards, like, it should be fine to have a default, but I'm leaning towards let's not make that decision now. Like we can go for a year or 2 or 3 or 4 and see if it's working out, and if it looks like, hey, we might actually probably need to change this at some point, then we keep it required. And if we're going along and we think, yeah, this is looking pretty stable, I think we can just make it default. We can just do it 5 years from now, and it would be fine.
Yeah, I'm totally okay with that also. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't one of the things we were saying everyone was in agreement with. So yeah, I'm happy to table that too.
Yeah, it's definitely not something we've agreed on. Yeah. Okay, I think that was all the things that I wanted to make sure that we were on the same page with, plus a little bit more discussion. So yeah, I think we can move on.
Thank you, Jason. Before ending the session, because we don't have more topics in the agenda, let me double check to see if someone added a comment during the meeting, but I think we don't have anything else. Just a question for all of us, how we can continue the discussion. Wait for another weekly session like this one, or just create an issue and see if we can put all the thoughts together, but maybe it's going to be a little bit redundant because we have other discussions around. So how we can move forward with this, or just having myself having different discussions with each one. I don't know how we can. Any suggestion to see how we can better continue what we started?
Well, I definitely wanted to write down some notes for myself before we had the discussion in person. But I hadn't thought about sharing our notes with everybody before the discussion, but I think that's a good idea. That way, if I've thought something through, I'm not blindsiding Greg, who hadn't thought about a particular issue, or whatever. So I guess creating discussion. I mean, I don't think we would want to get into too much of the discussion there, but just to drop our notes and then come to and then have a meeting like this and discuss things, I think would be a good start.
I like it. Yeah. Thank you, Jason. Last comment by anyone or question? Nothing? Okay, so we are done with the agenda. Thank you everyone for making the time, for joining the session. We had great discussions. I took notes about the changes in the banner for the README, and I think that we started really well this spec scope discussion. And I'm taking the action for creating the discussion to continue there. So thank you everyone, and have a great day, great rest of the day for the one that are just starting the day. For me, I'm just going to sleep, maybe like Ben. So See you tomorrow. It was great to see you all, and let's continue working and discussing in Slack. Take care.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Later.